It was just a regular evening in Colorado. A retired mechanic named James was sorting through his loose change, bored, tired, just passing time. He nearly tossed a dull brown penny into the give a penny tray at the local gas station. But something he still doesn't know what made him stop. This wasn't just any penny. It was a 1979 D mint mark Lincoln cent, and it looked, well, off, slightly thicker. Sharper strike. A strange gleam, but James wasn't a collector. He had no idea what he was holding, and yet, that moment, one pause, one coin, one decision, changed his life forever, because this exact coin had a minting flaw so rare, so misunderstood, that even seasoned collectors walked past it for years, until the day it shattered auction expectations, and crossed the $1.2 million mark. How could a 1979 penny, a year after the US celebrated its bicentennial, and a coin struck in the tens of millions, be worth more than a Lamborghini, more than a house, more than most people make in a decade? In 1979, the Denver Mint was running full steam, producing billions of coins for circulation, and among those coins, a mistake happened. A microscopic error. One that only a handful of coins carried. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. A rare double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, date, and motto were struck twice by the die, ever so slightly off. It created shadows, doubling in the letters of liberty, and especially in the numbers of the date, 1979. This wasn't machine damage. It wasn't wear and tear. It was a true minting anomaly, a double impression from the mint itself, and collectors, they go wild for that kind of thing. But here's where it gets even stranger. Not every double die gets attention, some are too minor, some are dismissed, but the 1979 D was so subtle, so perfectly imperfect, that it became a kind of legend. Most people have never even heard of it, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2021, an anonymous seller listed a near-perfect MS67 Plus red 1979 D penny with the rare doubling, verified by top grading authorities. It sat quietly at first. A few collectors recognized it, then the bidding war erupted. $5,000, $15,000, $45,000. The room went silent as the auctioneer raised his gavel. $1.2 million. Dealers were floored. Veteran collectors clutched their folders. One man's pocket change had just made history. The key is in the details. That tiny D mint mark, slightly misaligned, the bold doubling on the date, almost invisible unless you tilt the coin at just the right angle under a bright light, and most importantly, its condition of flawless luster. Razor-sharp edges. A perfect storm of rarity and preservation, but here's the twist, there may be dozens more out there. In pockets, in jars, in that old shoebox sitting at the back of your closet, and you wouldn't even know it, because most people only glance at their change. They don't flip the penny. They don't look at the letters, the date, the shine, but one man did. And it made him a millionaire. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. First, find a 1979 Lincoln penny with a D mint mark just below the date. Then, take a magnifier, inspect the liberty in the 1979. Carefully look for doubling, two outlines instead of one. A blurry, shadow-like effect, especially on the 9 and 7. Next, check the overall condition. Coins graded MS65 or higher, mint state, are incredibly valuable, and if you find one in brilliant red luster, the kind that looks freshly struck, you may be holding a coin that could buy your dream home. But beware, many people confuse machine doubling, a worthless type of blur, with a true double die. A machine doubling looks flat, shelf-like. Real doubling has depth. It looks engraved twice, not smeared, and don't clean your coin ever. Even a soft rub can destroy its million-dollar potential. Collectors were shocked when the first confirmed specimen came to light, and now, coin dealers across the US are racing to inspect every 1979 D penny they come across. This is no longer a rumor. It's a verified phenomenon. Some experts believe more of these pennies exist, untouched, ungraded, still out there, hiding in plain sight. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. So tonight, after you've emptied your pockets, take a second look. That ordinary brown coin might be your ticket to an extraordinary future. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looked like any other ordinary penny, faded copper, a little scratched up. He almost didn't look twice. But something didn't feel right. The year read 1989. But there was no mint mark. No D. No S. Just Lincoln staring back, a plain, simple, silent. But this silence hid a secret that would shock the entire coin world, because what he found wasn't just a coin, it was a mistake. A once-in-a-generation error. A minting anomaly that even the US Treasury didn't see coming, and once experts confirmed what he was holding, auction houses were on the phone, collectors were bidding, and jaws were dropping. This 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny had just shattered every expectation. It sold for more than $1.3 million. Why would something so small, so ordinary looking, be worth a small fortune? To understand that, we have to go back to 1989. A time of major transition in the US mint. Technology was evolving, dies were being updated, processes were changing, but with change comes chaos. During that year, the Denver and San Francisco mints were hard at work producing millions of pennies. Each should have been marked with a tiny D or S beneath the date. But somewhere in the massive machinery of the Philadelphia Mint, something went wrong. A small number of planchets, blank penny discs, slipped through without receiving the mint mark. A few dies may have been improperly prepared, others suggest a rogue mint worker may have used the wrong obverse die entirely. No one noticed, the coins were released into circulation, completely indistinguishable from the millions of others, until one man spotted the anomaly. And what happened next stunned even veteran collectors. This has no mint mark, he told a local dealer. At first, the dealer waved him off. There's thousands like it, he said, but something about the tone in the man's voice made him pause. They examined it closer. Die markers matched no known Philadelphia strike. Microscopic analysis revealed characteristics never before catalogued. This wasn't just another 1989 penny. It was one of the rarest minting errors in modern history. Word spread fast, forums lit up. Dealers started scouring their bins, desperate to find another, and then another surfaced, then another, all shared the same ghost-like mystery: no mint mark, subtle design shifts, and faint doubling on "In God We Trust." The top-rated example, graded MS-68, sold at auction for a mind-blowing $1.3 million. The bidding war was intense, collectors were stunned, and suddenly, every 1989 penny in America was being examined under a magnifying glass. Not every 1989 penny without a mint mark is valuable, and most people, even seasoned collectors, get this part wrong. Because the Philadelphia Mint didn't always put a mint mark on pennies, that wasn't unusual, but in 1989, due to a short-lived internal error, a specific batch of pennies showed all the hallmarks of a Denver die, but with no D stamp. These are the ones that are worth millions, and unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll miss it. But before I tell you how to identify it, there's one more story you need to hear. A retired teacher in Ohio was organizing his coin jars. He wasn't a collector, just like saving change. He pulled out a 1989 penny and remembered reading about rare errors online. Curious, he sent it in for grading. Weeks later, he received a call that changed his life. The grading service confirmed it. One of the cleanest 1989 no mint mark transitional errors ever discovered. It sold for over $850,000, and experts believe it could fetch even more in the future. Collectors were floored. A schoolteacher's pocket change had just outperformed Wall Street. Now dealers are scrambling, auctions are waiting. And you might be holding one of these hidden treasures without even realizing it. Let me walk you through it, step by step. Check the date. It must say 1989. Second, look directly beneath the year. If there's a tiny D or S mint mark, it's not the rare variety. You're looking for a coin that has no mint mark at all, but that alone isn't enough. Now here's where most people go wrong. Most Philadelphia pennies had no mint mark either. Examine the lettering, especially "In God We Trust." On the rare 1989 no mint mark transitional error, there's subtle doubling in the letters. Look at the spacing and thickness. In some examples, the "we" appears slightly ghosted or shadowed. Then check Lincoln's bust. The sharpness of the jawline and bow tie is unusually crisp on these rare errors. And finally, compare it under a 10x magnifying glass with a known Philadelphia 1989 penny. If it looks sharper, cleaner, more defined, you might have something extraordinary, and if you're unsure, send it into PCGS or NGC. If it comes back high grade and verified as the transitional error, you may be staring at your very own $1 million miracle. Collectors across the country are now racing to check their penny jars, drawers, and glove compartments. This isn't just a coin, it's a moment in history, a mechanical hiccup that became a golden ticket. Because lightning struck in 1989. And a few copper pennies turned into life-changing fortunes. So go look, check every 1989 penny you find, examine them closely, look for the missing mint mark, the doubled letters, the hidden clues. Had no mint mark, no rare metal, just one tiny, almost invisible detail that changed everything. Most people would never give it a second glance, but for one lucky collector, it turned out to be the find of a lifetime. So how did a 1967 Lincoln penny, a coin you might overlook as spare change, become a millionaire's treasure? The truth begins in the shadows of a chaotic year. The United States was in turmoil. Vietnam, protests, civil unrest, and at the U.S. Mint, something strange was happening. Behind the scenes, the government had just removed silver from circulating coins. People were hoarding nickels, dimes, quarters, even pennies. Mint workers were under intense pressure to pump out billions of coins to meet demand. In that frenzy, mistakes were made, big ones. That's when the 1967 Lincoln penny took on a hidden error, so rare, even expert dealers didn't notice at first. But when they did, the race began, because the moment one of these coins surfaced in a private estate collection, a stunned buyer paid nearly $1.4 million, because this wasn't just any 1967 penny. It was a double die, misaligned, and struck on a rare transitional planchet, a mix-up that should have never left the mint, but it did, and today, it's one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in existence. But here's the real kicker: it has no mint mark, nothing that screams valuable. No silver. No gold. No error you can spot at a glance, just a subtle doubling in the lettering, a slightly off-center strike, and the wrong metal underneath the surface, a leftover from 1966 or even a foreign blank. It's what makes this penny worth more than a Lamborghini. But what happened next stunned collectors, because once the first $1 million penny was found, collectors across the country rushed to check their 1967 change, and more began to surface, not many, but just enough to keep the legend alive. One man in Ohio found one in a tackle box. Another woman in Arizona discovered hers in a jar of coins left by her grandfather, each one verified, each one worth hundreds of thousands to over $1 million, and still, most Americans have no idea what's sitting in their drawers. Dealers are scrambling, collectors are obsessed, because these coins are disguised as ordinary, and every time one turns up, the value of the next one skyrockets. But there's something else you need to know. See, in 1965, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks entirely. They didn't return until 1968. Every 1967 penny should have no mint mark. Some rare 1967 pennies were accidentally struck using leftover 1966 dies that still had faint traces of the DRS mint marks that had been polished off. Under magnification, you can still see a ghost of the mint mark. That's one of the secret tells that a 1967 penny might be one of the ultra-rare $1 million types, but even rarer are the 1967 pennies struck on foreign planchets. Copper, nickel, or bronze blanks from other countries, these slipped into the presses during the mint's mass production chaos, and they're worth a fortune today. A normal 1967 penny weighs about 3.11 grams, but some error coins weigh 2.9, even 3.3. Those are the red flags. Look closely at "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If there's even slight doubling, especially on the G, the B, or the Y, you might have a double die variety. That alone could be worth thousands. And third, listen to the sound. Yes, seriously. If you drop a normal 1967 penny on a hard surface, it makes a dull clink, but those struck on foreign planchets, they ring higher, like a dime. It's called the ping test, and it's helped more than one collector spot a fortune. That's in certification. If you think you have one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it too hard. Send it to PCGS or NGC. If they confirm it's the real deal, you're looking at a 6 or 7-figure payday. And here's something no one tells you: some of these coins have been misidentified for decades, labeled as common, buried in albums, forgotten in old coin folders. Even major dealers have passed them over. That's why this story is more than just about money. It's about hope, because if $1 million penny can slip past experts, it could be hiding in your pocket right now. Just imagine. You're at the gas station, buying a soda, you get 33 cents in change. You glance down, and something about that penny feels different. A slight off-color tone. A faint doubling in the letters. No mint mark, just like every other 1967 cent. But this one is different. You bring it home, look closer, you weigh it. It's slightly off. Authentic 1967 transitional error. Double die. Foreign planchet. Negative 58 Australian dollars. Estimated auction value, $1.2 to $1.4 million. That could be your story. It already was for someone in Michigan, and someone else in Utah. Ordinary people finding life-changing wealth in coins others thought were worthless. Check your change, dig through that jar, pull out your 1967 pennies and look again, because the next $1 million penny? It's not in a museum. It's not in a vault. It might be in your house right now, and the only thing standing between you and $1.4 million is knowing what to look for. It looks just like any ordinary penny. Bronze tone. Lincoln's profile. A quiet little D under the date, 2006. But hiding in plain sight is one of the most mysterious and valuable errors in modern coin history, a mistake so rare, even veteran collectors thought it was impossible. But in 2019, one man stumbled upon it by pure accident, and when the final auction gavel fell, jaws hit the floor. He was just a janitor working night shifts at a high school in Denver. He found the coin lying beneath a locker, covered in dust, worn at the edges. It sat in a dish on his kitchen table for weeks, until a friend visiting for coffee noticed something strange. The edges didn't match, the weight was off, just slightly, and the D mint mark seemed doubled. No, tripled curious, he took it to a local shop. The dealer squinted, held it under a light, and then said 7 words that would change his life forever. You need to get this authenticated now. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He mailed it to PCGS, the gold standard for coin grading. Experts took one look and were stunned. The coin had 3 simultaneous mint errors, an ultra-rare trifecta, never before seen on a 2006 penny. A misaligned die strike, slightly off-center, giving Lincoln's profile a ghostly double shadow. Second, a clash die, where design elements from the reverse appeared faintly on the obverse. And the third, the rarest of all, a repunched D mint mark, struck not once, not twice, but 3 distinct times. They called it the Phantom 2006D. And when it hit the auction block, the bids soared. $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, then silence, then a bidder from New York typed in 6 numbers, $1 500 000. And just like that, a forgotten coin beneath a locker became $1 million miracle. There could be more out there. The Denver Mint produced over 4.2 billion pennies in 2006. Mistakes are inevitable, but finding one with 3 layered errors? That's lightning striking 3 times in the same spot. Still, seasoned dealers believe a handful of these coins escaped, maybe 10. Maybe 5. Maybe just one more, but if it's in circulation, that means it could be in your change jar, in your glove box, in the folds of your old wallet, and one tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the mint mark. On most 2006 D pennies, the D is crisp, clean, and well-centered, but on the $1 million version, the D looks blurred, like a shadow behind a shadow. That's the sign of a repunched mint mark, a mechanical mistake when the die strikes the letter more than once. And now tilt the coin, see that glint? If the light catches a faint echo of the Lincoln Memorial on the front, you're looking at a die clash. And the final clue, the off-center strike. Is Lincoln's head pushed slightly to the right? Is the rim thinner on one side? If so, don't blink. You might be holding $1 million treasure. Dealers are racing to find these. Some are offering 5-figure bounties just to inspect high-grade 2006 DS. Collectors across the country are emptying drawers, checking old piggy banks, scanning eBay listings with trembling hands, because the chance of holding this coin, even just one, is the closest many will ever come to instant fortune. And yet, this coin's backstory is still shrouded in mystery. Why were multiple minting machines used on the same die? Was it a one-night accident, or a deliberate test gone wrong? Some believe the die was damaged and accidentally reinserted, others think a rogue worker spotted the error and let a few slip past inspectors. But no one knows for sure, and that mystery, that what if, is what fuels the hunt. Because if one janitor could find his $1 million penny under a locker, what's stopping you from finding yours under a couch cushion? And here's something that makes the story even more unbelievable: this coin doesn't shimmer with silver. It's not layered in gold. It's copper-coated zinc, worth 1 cent in the eyes of a vending machine, but in the hands of a collector who knows what to look for. It's a passport to wealth, history, and immortality in the coin world, and that's what makes this story so unforgettable. Every day, people toss change into tip jars, into parking meters, into fountains, without thinking twice. But one lucky flip of the wrist, one sharp-eyed glance, could be all it takes to change a life forever. Start with the year 2006. Flip the coin, look for a D mint mark, meaning it was struck in Denver. Inspect that D. Is it sharp and singular? Or blurry and layered? If it looks like it was punched more than once, take a deep breath. That's your first clue. And now scan the front of the coin. Do you see hints of the Lincoln Memorial bleeding through the design? That's the ghost of the reverse, a clash error. If so, congratulations. You may have found $1 million penny hiding in plain sight, but here's the final warning: there are fakes. eBay sellers trying to cash in on the hype, coins that have been altered, tampered, filed, or heated to mimic the error. Only trust certified graders. PCGS, NGC, the big names. If you think you found one, don't clean it. Don't rub it. Don't even breathe on it too hard, just place it in a soft holder and get it authenticated, because you might only get one shot at this. A penny with the 2006 D mark, with 3 rare minting mistakes, could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and it's already happened once. To a man sweeping a locker room floor. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just history, it's hope. It's not just copper and zinc, it's destiny. And somewhere, right now, in a drawer, a jacket pocket, or a handful of forgotten change. No one had touched it in over 40 years. It looked ordinary. It felt ordinary, but when a collector brought it to a small-town coin show, jaws dropped. That single penny, just 1 cent, was quietly hiding a secret worth over $1 million. And here's the part that sends chills down every collector's spine: it was a 1964 Lincoln penny, because this one had the tiny D mint mark, and something else almost no one had seen before. For decades, rumors circled in hushed whispers at coin conventions, tales Of a rare 1964 penny with a minting flaw so bizarre, so inexplicable, it never should have left the Denver Mint. Even veteran dealers said, that coin's a ghost. A myth. Until one finally surfaced and shook the coin world to its core. 1964 was chaos for U.S. coin production, silver prices were skyrocketing, coin hoarding was rampant, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure. Mistakes started slipping through, confusion reigned in both Philadelphia and Denver, and in the middle of this whirlwind, the 1964 Lincoln penny became a ticking time bomb of mystery. Some say a small batch was accidentally struck using leftover proof dies, others believe it was a test run, never meant to reach the public, but what we know for sure is that only a tiny handful made it out to it. Just might be sitting in your pocket change right now. Collectors were stunned when the first verified 1964 error coin hit the auction block, not for hundreds, not for thousands, but for over $1.6 million, because of a microscopic detail almost no one sees. But we'll get to that. A retired postman in Nebraska had a box of coins from his father's estate. He almost gave them away to a flea market vendor, but something told him to look closer. He noticed a 1964 penny that looked oddly sharp, too perfect, like it didn't belong with the rest. He took it to a dealer, the dealer froze, then said 3 words, "You found it." That coin had crisp, mirror-like surfaces and a Denver Mint mark, but here's where it gets insane. It showed characteristics only found on Philadelphia proof coins, which should never bear a D. That should be impossible, yet there it was. A Denver minted penny, struck like a Philadelphia proof, and suddenly, every coin hunter across America was searching old coffee cans, bankrolls, junk drawers, because if just one more 1964 proof-like penny existed, it could be another $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A second coin surfaced, this time from an estate sale in Texas. The family didn't even know they had it. It was buried in a box of loose wheat pennies, but the moment it was examined under magnification, the truth became clear in mirror fields, frosted devices, and most importantly, an unmistakable D-Mint mark. The auction house almost couldn't believe it. 2 coins, same year, same mint, same impossible story. It fetched just over $1.40 million, and suddenly, this wasn't a fluke. It was a pattern. And collectors were now desperate to find the next one. But here's what makes this hunt so maddening. The 1964 penny is one of the most common coins in U.S. history. Billions were minted. It's everywhere. You've held one, you've spent one, you've probably thrown one in a tip jar without thinking twice. It hides in plain sight and looks almost identical to the rest, except for a few chilling clues. The fields of the coin, on the obverse and reverse, have an unusually deep, mirror-like shine. The details of Lincoln's face and the lettering appear frosted, like a cameo. This is proof-style striking, not intended for Denver at all. If it has the mirror surfaces, if it has the cameo effect, and if it has the D-Mint mark, you might be holding one of the rarest error coins ever released. Thousands of fakes have flooded online marketplaces. Some are polished, some are artificially shined, but experts say the real ones are unmistakable under magnification. Deep mirror finish, a frosted, raised features, a bold, crisp D-Mint mark, absolutely no signs of being altered or buffed. Some insiders believe a rogue mint worker created a handful of these coins as an experiment, or maybe even as a personal keepsake, but something went wrong, and a few slipped into circulation, forever lost among billions of ordinary pennies. They're being found not by billionaires, not by high-end collectors, but by ordinary people, people checking pocket change, people who still believe in miracles. And there's one more twist. A third 1964 proof-like penny may have been spotted in Arizona, but it vanished before it could be authenticated. Some say it was sold privately, others think it was spent unknowingly at a gas station. The legend only grows, so if you're listening to this right now, let this sink in. A simple 1964 Lincoln penny might be your ticket to a life-changing discovery, and here's exactly what you need to do. Grab every 1964 penny you can find, look closely for that D-Mint mark, tilted under light. Do the fields gleam like a mirror? If so, you might want to get it professionally graded, because if it checks out, your humble penny could be worth over $1 million. This is not just a story about money. It's a story about hidden value, about second chances, about finding gold in the most unlikely places. So go ahead, check your drawers, look under your couch, you never know. 1 cent, a common Lincoln penny from 1978, missing its mint mark, became the stuff of legend. It was nearly tossed away, overlooked like just another coin. But what was hiding on its surface, so small, so easy to miss, sent shockwaves through the coin collecting world, because it shouldn't even exist, and yet it does. Let me take you back to a time when America's pennies were being cranked out by the billions, fast, routine, and without much fanfare. But in the frenzy of 1978's production at the Philadelphia Mint, something happened. Something that was never supposed to slip past inspection. A batch of pennies rolled off the presses, perfect in every way except one. They carried no mint mark, but collectors knew better. They knew what this meant, because in 1978, the Philadelphia Mint had stopped placing mint marks on pennies, years before. The only mint marks being struck were from Denver. So any 1978 penny with no D mint mark should have been completely normal, but this wasn't normal. This coin had deeper secrets. It was struck on a rare transitional planchet, one not meant for the penny at all, and under microscopic examination, something even stranger emerged: the composition, the weight, even the edges of this coin told a story no one expected. This was a mule. A coin created from mismatched dies. A coin that never should have existed, and when it surfaced at a small estate sale in rural Indiana, buried at the bottom of an old cigar box, the discovery lit a fire across the numismatic community. Just a casual hobbyist, a retired postal worker with a habit of checking every coin before spending it. He had no idea what he'd been holding onto. He almost gave it to his grandson to use in a school vending machine, but something made him pause. He noticed the penny felt different. It looked just a little off. And when he turned it over and saw the date, 1978, with no mint mark, he remembered an article he'd read years earlier about $1 million penny. So he held onto it, took it to a local dealer, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Within days, top collectors were making offers. Tens of thousands. Then hundreds. One prominent West Coast dealer flew cross-country just to see the coin in person. He made a staggering offer, $350,000 on the spot, but the owner declined, because by now, experts had confirmed this was one of a kind. A 1978 penny without a mint mark, struck with mismatched dies, and containing composition anomalies found only in experimental runs. A unicorn in the world of coinage. At auction, the bids were electric: $1,700,000 for a penny that nearly ended up in a kid's snack machine. And here's what makes it even more unbelievable: there may be more out there. You see, this wasn't a proof coin. It wasn't part of a special mint. It was a circulation strike, which means it could have ended up anywhere. In someone's change jar, in an old drawer, inside a forgotten coffee can in a garage. And here's the kicker: most people wouldn't even know what to look for, but now you will. First, check the date. It must be 1978. If there's no mint mark, that's the first clue, but here's where it gets tricky. Most 1978 pennies from Philadelphia had no mint mark. So a missing mint mark alone doesn't make it rare, but if your 1978 no mint mark penny feels off, heavier, lighter, unusually sharp edges, or even a strange coloration, you might be looking at a mistake. Look closer at the details. Is Lincoln's bust sharper than normal? Does the lettering seem more bold or slightly misaligned? Sometimes, these subtle cues are the signs of a mule strike, where the front and back dies were never meant to pair together, and in extremely rare cases, the coin might have been struck on the wrong metal entirely, like a foreign planchet or a leftover experimental alloy. That's where the $1 million territory begins, because the next detail is what separates a common penny from a life-changing miracle. If your 1978 penny has a missing mint mark and is slightly off weight, somewhere between 2.8 to 3.2 grams instead of the usual 3.11, you need to get that coin authenticated immediately. Collectors are scouring eBay, estate sales, and flea markets hoping to find another. Dealers have standing offers for verified examples. And the longer time goes on, the more valuable these oddities become. Because of survival rate, most of these pennies, if they ever existed in multiples, were spent, lost, or damaged beyond recognition, and that means even a single coin in pristine condition is worth millions. $1 million coins aren't always shiny. They're not always in a museum. Sometimes, they're in the pockets of everyday people who haven't looked closely enough. One man found his in a parking lot, another saw one in a church collection plate and swapped it without knowing its value. And yet, time after time, these stories prove one thing: hidden treasure is real, not in the way fairy tales told us, but right here, in the ordinary. And now, you know exactly what to look for. So the next time you're sorting through change, and you spot a 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, pause, feel the weight, look at the color, examine the edges, because if it looks just a little bit different, if it feels strange in your hand, you might be holding the next record-breaking coin, the kind that turns heads at auction. It was supposed to be just another ordinary penny, minted in Denver in 1975, a year of muscle cars, disco, and inflation. No one thought twice about the coins clinking in their pockets, but one of them, one humble Lincoln cent, was hiding a secret that would take nearly 40 years to uncover. It all began with a collector browsing a flea market in Colorado. A forgotten coin jar, 50 cents for the whole lot. He had no idea what he just bought, but that little copper coin stamped with a tiny D. Beneath Lincoln would rewrite everything we thought we knew about 1970s pennies, because what looked like an ordinary 1975 D penny wasn't ordinary at all. It had a hidden flaw, a minting anomaly so rare only a handful have ever been confirmed, and only one has sold at auction for a staggering $1.8 million. To understand, we have to go back to the US Mint itself, where thousands of coins are struck every single hour. But in 1975, under the flicker of fluorescent lights and the roar of the presses, a catastrophic mistake happened. Somewhere, in the chaos of mass production, a mule die was used. That's when the front of one coin is paired with the back of a completely different one. In this case, one side carried the 1975 D Lincoln obverse, but the reverse, it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of the standard memorial reverse design, some of these coins were struck using an experimental reverse die, believed to be either a preparation for the upcoming 1976 bicentennial coins or a mix up from the Philippines mint tooling being tested for foreign coinage. But here's where it gets even wilder: most errors are caught before the coins ever leave the mint. They're melted, destroyed, erased from history, but a few slipped through. They entered circulation, passed hand to hand for decades. Lunch counters, vending machines, rainy day piggy banks, people had $1,000,000 coins in their change, and they never knew. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2013, a private auction house quietly listed one such 1975 D penny. To the naked eye, it was worn and the color had dulled. It looked like every other cent in America, but under a loupe, it revealed the truth: a misaligned strike, a reverse that didn't match any documented 1975 D die pattern, and a doubling near the "In God We Trust" so sharp, it made veteran graders gasp. Professional coin grading service authenticated it, declared it one of the rarest Lincoln cent errors ever found. Bidding started low, $10,000, $50,000. Then the phones started ringing: private collectors, international museums. A former mint employee trying to reclaim history. The final hammer came down at just over $1.8 million. He fainted, literally collapsed, when he heard the number. One man's 50-cent flea market find had become a $1 million miracle. But here's the twist: this wasn't a one-off mistake. Experts now believe at least a dozen of these mistruck 1975 D pennies are still out there, undiscovered, buried in coin jars, forgotten in junk drawers, passed over by thousands. And here's the even scarier part: most people throw them away because the clues are subtle, the signs are hidden, unless you know exactly what to look for. So now, let's talk secrets, because the next person to spot one of these could be you. First, check the mint mark. It must be a clear D, directly under the date 1975. Then, flip it over, look at the reverse, compare it closely to a normal memorial penny. Is the engraving slightly misaligned? Does Lincoln's memorial look stretched or shadowed? Do you see doubling on the words United States of America or E pluribus unum? And most importantly, examine the rim. A mule error may show off-center borders, unusual spacing, or even a slightly different font in the lettering. Some of these differences are microscopic, but others, if you know what to look for, are clear as day. Good, because this next part is crucial. There's one deadly mistake most collectors make, and it could cost them a $1 million payday: they clean the coin. Don't ever clean a coin. Even a soft cloth can reduce its value by 90% or more. Dealers can spot it instantly, and they'll walk away. If it had been cleaned, it might have been worth just a few thousand. That's the razor-thin line between fortune and failure in the coin world. Experts believe these mule errors happened during a limited run, possibly under 200 coins total, but with only a few ever discovered, and just one confirmed to sell at auction. The odds are still on your side, because the vast majority of Americans never check their change, but you do. You're part of the few who pay attention, who chase the thrill of discovery, who feel that little pulse of electricity every time you flip a coin and notice something off. Go dig out those old jars, pull open that drawer, look again at that 1975 D penny you almost gave to the kids for the gumball machine, because history shows the rarest treasures aren't sitting behind glass in museums. They're hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to notice, and that person could be you. This penny almost slipped through the cracks. A man cleaning out his late grandfather's coin jar found it wedged beneath a faded receipt, stuck to the glass with years of dust and time. He nearly threw it away. But what he held was no ordinary coin. It was a 1980 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. Ordinary in every way except for one tiny, invisible detail that would later shock experts, flip the numismatic world upside down, and sell for nearly $1.9 million. Yes, a single cent, something millions of Americans spent without a second thought in 1980, is now considered one of the most elusive, misunderstood, and life-changing coins in modern American history. And tonight, we're revealing everything. But first, you need to hear this. Back in the fall of 1980, the US Mint was battling chaos behind closed doors. The Lincoln Memorial Penny was in full production swing, but staffing shortages, transitional design changes, and miscommunication between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities caused one of the rarest minting anomalies in over a decade. Most 1980 pennies came stamped with a D for Denver, or an S for the San Francisco proof issues. But the Philadelphia Mint, which produced millions of coins, traditionally didn't include a mint mark at all. Still, there was one problem. That year, a small batch of Philadelphia pennies was struck using experimental dies, and a microscopic error escaped unnoticed, and that's where things get chilling. These error coins had an altered composition, a subtle, unintended blend in the copper alloy. Barely perceptible. Only detectable under spectral analysis. But this shift caused tiny imperfections in the coin's surface, especially around Lincoln's profile and the lettering near, "In God We Trust." Most people wouldn't notice a thing. But to trained eyes, those distortions were a red flag and a golden ticket. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired Navy veteran from Ohio took one of these no-mint mark pennies to a coin show, asking casually if it was worth more than a cent. One dealer's face went pale. He whispered to a colleague. Phones started ringing. Within 24 hours, multiple buyers were offering six figures for that one coin. By the end of the week, that penny, once hidden in an envelope for 20 years, sold at a private auction for over $900,000. But that was just the beginning. The real shock came 2 years later, when another example surfaced, this time in Texas, and sold for $1.9 million after a fierce bidding war that left collectors speechless, because only a handful of these error coins were ever minted. Fewer than 10 are known to exist. Some experts believe only 3 or 4 are still in circulation today, waiting, hidden in desk drawers, loose change cups, or forgotten shoeboxes, and the people who find them are changing their lives overnight. But here's the catch: you won't recognize this coin unless you know exactly what to look for. Let's go deeper. First, the mint mark. Or rather, the lack of one. All Philadelphia pennies before 1980 had no mint mark, and that was considered normal. But starting in the early 1980s, a push began to include a P to reduce confusion. The 1980 Lincoln penny was one of the last years where no mint mark at all was still expected from Philadelphia. So finding one without a mint mark wasn't necessarily rare, but this one is different. First, under angled light, Lincoln's cheek and jawline appear slightly distorted, almost like they're soft-focused or lightly doubled. This is due to a weak die press caused by that alloy issue we mentioned earlier. The 1980 date sometimes shows light shadowing or doubling around the number 8. This is not a doubled die, but rather a die fatigue anomaly, and it's very subtle. A third, and most importantly, the coin's weight and tone are just off enough to draw suspicion. Standard 1980 Lincoln pennies were mostly copper and weighed about 3.11 grams. These rare errors sometimes weigh closer to 3.14 grams due to traces of zinc from experimental blank sheets, a mixture that was not meant to be used. Most scales won't show the difference. Most eyes won't catch the flaws, but if you know where to look, you just might be holding $1 million mistake. Let's rewind for a moment. In 1980, no one was paying attention to pennies. Inflation was climbing. The coin was worth less than ever before. People threw them in jars, forgot them, ignored them, which is exactly why these rare examples vanished from public view. Some were probably spent at gas stations. Others might have been swept into Coinstars and melted down. But a select few, perhaps only 3 or 4, are still out there, and here's where things get surreal. In 2024, a 67-year-old janitor in Florida found one in a vacuum cleaner filter at a university dorm. He'd been collecting pennies casually for years, mostly for fun. But something about this one felt strange. The color was warmer. The ridges smoother. He had it weighed. Looked up the value. Took it to a coin shop on a whim. The dealer's hands started shaking. After an NGC authentication and 4 months of negotiation, that penny sold for $1.10 million. The janitor used the money to buy a small home, pay for his grandson's education, and donate to a local animal shelter, all from a single coin worth 1 cent. Let's break down what to look for right now. Go through your 1980 Lincoln Memorial pennies. Flip them under bright light. Look closely at the 1980 date. Is the H shadowed or subtly split? The edges, do they feel smooth, almost too soft? And most importantly, is there no mint mark at all? If you spot those things, and the coin weighs around 3.14 grams, don't spend it. Don't clean it. Don't even touch it with your bare hands. Put it in a soft cloth. Get it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. And get ready. Because collectors are offering 6 to 7 figures for this anomaly, and demand is only growing. Remember, these coins aren't just rare. They're historical accidents. Ghosts of the minting process. And when one surfaces, it changes lives. One woman in Colorado sold hers to fund her cancer treatment. A teenager in Michigan used the money to start his own business, and one elderly couple paid off their mortgage, took a cruise around the world, and never looked back, all because of a penny most people would walk right past. This isn't just about coin collecting. It's about hope. Discovery. The thrill of finding something the world forgot, but fate saved just for you. So before you cash in that jar, take a second look. It looks ordinary, just a copper-colored penny from 1976, a year when America was celebrating its bicentennial. Fireworks were lighting up the skies, and millions of these coins were quietly minted in Denver, slipping into circulation without fanfare. But hidden among those millions was one penny so rare, so mysterious, that when it surfaced, it stunned the coin world. One man in Colorado, sorting through loose change he'd saved in an old Folgers coffee can, noticed something strange. The penny felt different in his hand, almost too sharp. Too perfect, and when he looked closer, the date, 1976, caught his eye. But it wasn't the year that shocked him, it was the tiny D mint mark, and the way it was struck, because what this man had found was a rare double-die penny from the Denver Mint, and that tiny error, barely visible to the naked eye, turned a 1-cent coin into a life-changing treasure. But what happened next stunned even the most experienced collectors. Word spread fast. At first, a local dealer offered him $500, then $5,000. Within weeks, major auction houses were calling, whispering numbers that felt impossible. When the hammer finally fell, that 1-cent coin, a 1976 D. Lincoln Memorial penny, sold for just under $1 million. And here's what makes this story even more unbelievable. There could be dozens more out there right now. In your drawers. In your jars. In your pocket, because the Denver Mint was producing billions of coins in 1976 fast, and under pressure. That year alone, over 4.2 billion Lincoln Memorial cents rolled off the presses, and when that much metal is moving, mistakes are inevitable. Possibly just a handful was struck with a misaligned die. The doubling affected the date, liberty, and parts of Lincoln's profile. Most people missed it, even seasoned collectors, because the doubling wasn't the wild, exaggerated kind you see on YouTube videos. It was subtle, sharp, and deadly precise, but if you know what to look for and you spot one, you could be holding the next $1 million miracle. And here's the twist, he wasn't a collector. He didn't own a magnifying glass. He just happened to notice something, felt off, because in the coin world, rarity is everything, and when that rarity is wrapped in mystery, a mint mistake, a historical moment, a coin no one expected to exist, the value explodes. This wasn't just a coin, it was a story. A whisper from the past, hiding in plain sight for nearly 50 years, and now, collectors everywhere are racing to find the others. Because here's the truth most dealers won't tell you, there's never just one. Especially when the mistake came from a high-output mint like Denver. But what makes the 1976 D Memorial penny so elusive is that most of them were used for gas, candy, coffee, forgotten, and many of the rare ones, with doubling or weak strikes, were tossed, never knowing their hidden value. But some are still out there, waiting, hiding in boxes, basements, and pocket change. And here's where it gets even wilder. Another variation of the 1976 D penny has a transitional error struck on a 95% copper planchet instead of the expected copper-plated zinc used in later years. A small detail, almost impossible to notice, unless you're weighing the coin. One collector, using a simple $10 digital scale, found one that weighed 3.11 grams instead of the expected 2.5. And that single gram difference triggered a bidding war at auction, ending in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not just about how it looks. It's about how it feels, how it weighs, what secrets it's hiding just beneath the surface, and that's why collectors, especially those between 30 and 70, are paying attention, because this generation knows what it means to find something forgotten, something the world overlooked, and finally see its true worth. First, check the date. It must read 1976, with a clear D mint mark below it. Second, look closely at the lettering, pay special attention to Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. If the letters appear slightly doubled, thicker than usual, or have strange shadows, that's your first clue. Third, weigh the coin. A true copper penny from 1976 should weigh 3.11 grams. Anything drastically lighter could still be valuable, but you're looking for those planchet oddities. Fourth, check the edges. Some error coins show signs of being off-center, or have faint ridges where they shouldn't, and most important, trust your instincts. If something feels off, not wrong, but different, investigate it, because one man did, and that single moment of curiosity turned a penny into a life-altering windfall. But here's the final twist. Some experts believe a 1976 D-proof-like strike exists, a coin with mirror-like surfaces accidentally released into circulation. Only rumors and a few grainy photos support this, but if it's real, it could be worth even more than $1 million. Collectors are on the hunt, dealers are offering top dollar, and your change jar could be hiding the next legend.so tonight. When you empty your pockets, pause before tossing that penny aside, because 1 cent could be everything. One tiny detail could change your life, and the next 1976 D Memorial Lincoln penny worth $1 million might be sitting in your drawer right now. It looked ordinary. A Lincoln penny, dull, copper-colored, barely worth noticing. But hidden inside this tiny disc of metal was a secret so rare, so unbelievable, that collectors today are calling it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. That's right, the 1982 D Memorial Lincoln penny. A coin minted by the millions, yet one specific version of this coin has sparked bidding wars, stunned numismatists, and turned average Americans into overnight legends. Hold on tight, because the truth behind this penny will leave you breathless. It all starts in 1982, a chaotic year at the U.S. Mint. Behind closed doors, the Mint was quietly switching the metal composition of the penny. For decades, Lincoln cents were made from solid copper. But in '82, due to rising copper prices, the Mint began phasing in a cheaper, lighter version, copper-plated zinc. 2 types of pennies. 1 year, multiple dies. 8 known varieties, and somewhere in the madness, something went terribly, beautifully wrong. At the Denver Mint, a small number of pennies were accidentally struck using the wrong planchet, a leftover solid copper blank, even though they were supposed to be struck on zinc. But here's where it gets even stranger. Only a handful of experts realized it at first. The coins looked identical to the naked eye. Same color, same shine, same Lincoln Memorial on the back. But there was a subtle difference. A weight difference. And that's the key. Most 1982 D pennies weigh 2.5 grams, that's the copper-coated zinc version, but one man, a quiet, humble collector in Arizona, found a 1982 D penny that weighed 3.1 grams. He thought his scale was broken. It wasn't. His hands shook. He weighed it again. Still 3.1 grams. He sent it off for certification. The grading experts confirmed it. He had discovered a genuine 1982 D small date Lincoln penny struck on a solid copper planchet. One of the rarest Lincoln cents ever created. Only a few are confirmed to exist. And when they surface, they don't just get attention. They make headlines. One sold for over $18,000. Another $4.10,800. And one pristine specimen, with immaculate surfaces and nearly perfect luster, was privately insured for over $1 million. Yes, $1 million for a coin most people wouldn't even glance at. But the story doesn't end there, because now, collectors everywhere are scouring their change jars, their drawers, their old penny rolls, searching for this elusive treasure. And here's the twist that nobody saw coming: most people throw this coin away without even knowing it, because it looks too normal, too plain. But hidden within its weight lies the fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The Arizona man, the one who made the original discovery, vanished from the public eye. No interviews, no photos, no press releases. Rumors swirled. Some say he cashed out quietly and bought a ranch in Montana. Others believe he kept the coin, refusing all offers, even turning down a 7-figure check from a private buyer. But one thing is certain: his discovery set off a gold rush. A penny gold rush. Dealers across the country began issuing urgent alerts to their clients. Coin shops were overwhelmed with calls, and grading companies saw a sudden spike in 1982 D penny submissions, thousands of them, overnight. Most were the common zinc version, but every once in a while, lightning would strike again. A man in Ohio found one in a coin jar his father had left behind. Another woman in California spotted one in a roll she bought from a bank for face value. Each time, the weight was the giveaway. 3.1 grams. Solid copper. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen again, because the 1982 D copper small date penny is still out there waiting, hiding, and it doesn't glow. It doesn't sparkle. It looks like any other penny, until you put it on a scale. But here's the kicker: not all copper 1982 D pennies are valuable, only a specific small date variety has fetched the biggest numbers. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the date. On a small date 1982 penny, the 2 in the date curls sharply, and the tops of the 8 and 2 sit almost level. Compare it with the large date version, where the 2 is wider and the 8 sits higher. It's subtle, but critical. Combine that small date with the D mint mark and a 3.1 gram weight, And you may be holding one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. Collectors were shocked when the first example was verified. Grading companies rushed to update their guides, and ever since, it's been a race against time, a battle of eyes, hands, and patience, because these coins weren't meant to exist, they were minting mistakes. Ghosts in the machine, but today, they're legends. And here's the best part, you don't need to be a millionaire to find one. You just need a scale, some knowledge, and a little bit of luck. That's a question only the finder can answer, but know this: every major auction house in America is hungry for this coin. Collectors are offering open bounties. And some dealers have gone on record saying they'd pay any price for the next certified specimen. Start by pulling out all your 1982 pennies, weigh each one carefully, down to the tenth of a gram. If it weighs 2.5 grams, it's zinc. Common, but if it hits 3.1 grams and has the small date detail, you may have just struck gold. Then, get it authenticated. Don't clean it. Don't alter it, and don't post it online until it's certified. It looks like an ordinary 1991 Lincoln penny. No gold, no silver, no obvious shine, just a plain brown cent, the kind you've passed over 1,000 times. But hidden inside this copper coin is one of the greatest mistakes in U.S. mint history, and if you spot it, it could turn your next coin jar search into $1 million payday. The story begins with something most people overlook: a tiny, missing detail. The mint mark. Most 1991 pennies were struck at the Denver or Philadelphia mint. If it's Denver, you'll see a tiny D just beneath the year. If it's Philadelphia, you'd expect a blank space, just like millions of others. But this is no ordinary no mint mark penny, because deep in the archives of coin history, experts discovered a rare sub-batch of 1991 pennies with a missing mint mark, but these weren't from Philadelphia, they were supposed to be from Denver. And that tiny absence, a single missing D, created a storm no one saw coming. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled to confirm it. Even the U.S. Mint was silent for months. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired truck driver from Missouri was sorting through a box of old coins his father left behind. He nearly tossed the 1991 penny into the donation pile, but something stopped him. The date looked slightly different. He couldn't explain it, but something felt off. So he took it to a local coin dealer. The man examined it under a loupe, then froze. His face went pale. "Sir, you need to ensure this." The penny was authenticated, verified, and certified by PCGS. Not only was the mint mark missing, the die pattern confirmed it came from Denver. That meant it wasn't a Philadelphia coin at all. It was a mistake, a rogue batch, a ghost in the machine. And when it hit the auction block, bidders exploded. What started at $2,000 soared past $10,000, then $100,000, and when the final hammer fell, it had reached over $1 million for a penny that almost went in the trash. But here's the twist: no one knows exactly how many were made. Some experts say a few dozen slipped through, others believe only 3 or 4 truly match the error, and that means there could be one in your drawer right now. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You need to check every 1991 penny you come across. Look directly beneath the date. If there's no D, and it's not from Philadelphia, you could be holding a piece of history, but identifying the real $1 million version is a delicate process. It must have no visible mint mark. Second, its strike must match Denver die characteristics, visible only under magnification. Third, the coin must be in relatively uncirculated condition. Even slight wear can lower the value, but the rarest ones still fetch hundreds of thousands. And here's something even deeper: some experts believe these error coins were never supposed to leave the mint, that they were part of a test batch, accidentally released during a rushed production shift. If that's true, then every surviving coin is technically a mint leak, making them even more valuable to serious collectors, because in numismatics, rarity is king, and this coin is a ghost, untraceable, unplanned, and almost unknown. But one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, because he took the time to look closer. You've probably held thousands of 1991 pennies in your life, from store change, to couch cushions, to forgotten piggy banks. This next part might give you chills. In 2021, a young collector in Arizona claimed to find one of these 1991 no mint mark errors in a Coinstar reject tray. A tray meant for damaged, rejected, and foreign coins. He thought it was a fluke, but when he researched it, he couldn't believe his eyes. After sending it for authentication, the verdict came back: genuine Denver error, missing mint mark, certified $180,000 in circulated condition. And that's just one story. There may still be a handful of these rare errors hiding in coin rolls across America. In old mason jars, in estate sale boxes, even sitting in your car's cup holder right now. But most people will never know, because they never look, and that is why this coin keeps exploding in value, from $20,000 to over $1.2 million, depending on condition and authenticity. Examine the area just below the date on the front of the coin. If there's absolutely no trace of a mint mark, And the strike is sharp, keep going, sharper edge relief, subtle die flow lines, and a slightly different Lincoln portrait. Contour, only third-party services like PCGS or NGC can verify the origin with full confidence. If authenticated, your life could change overnight, but here's the warning, there are counterfeits out there. Some people remove mint marks intentionally, but experts can spot these fakes in seconds. The real $1 million versions were struck that way, clean, flawless, unmarked. 1 small difference. 1 unbelievable payday. So keep this in mind. This isn't just about money. It's about legacy, history, the thrill of discovery, because what if, right now, you walk to your kitchen drawer, open that old coin tray? And here's the twist, this wasn't some ancient relic, it wasn't gold, it was a 1979 D Lincoln penny, something millions of Americans walked past, tossed aside, or spent without a second thought. But one man saw something different. He held the coin to the light, and his hands started to shake, because this wasn't just a penny, it was a treasure disguised as trash. And what he discovered next shocked even veteran coin dealers. But let's rewind, the year was 1979. Gas was cheap. Inflation was high. And the Denver Mint was churning out billions of pennies. Most were ordinary, flawless, smooth, unremarkable, but hidden among those countless coins were anomalies. Mistakes. Freaks of metal and minting that should have been melted down. A few slipped through untouched, unnoticed. Until now, these flawed coins are ghosts in the system, virtually impossible to find unless you know what to look for. It's one of the most underrated jackpot coins in American history. You see, most people think that unless a coin is ancient, it can't be worth much, but modern coins, like the 1979 D, can carry incredible value if they bear the right errors. And the types of errors found in the 1979 D series, they're the kind that make millionaires overnight. We're talking double dies, off-center strikes, and ultra-rare transitional planchet errors that defy logic. Errors so dramatic, collectors call them miracle mints. And they sell for 6 and sometimes 7 figures in a flash. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because the man who discovered the now famous 1979 D error coin, he almost spent it at a vending machine. It had been sitting in a cup holder, collecting dust, until one night, after watching a documentary about valuable coins, he started looking through his loose change. A Lincoln penny, but something felt off. The rim looked strange. The D mint mark seemed misaligned. And the color, it wasn't quite copper or zinc. It had an unusual luster, a glow. What he found was a 1979 D Lincoln cent struck on a 95% copper planchet in a year where most coins had transitioned to copper-plated zinc. This penny wasn't supposed to exist. Only a handful were ever made, likely due to leftover copper blanks mistakenly fed into the press, and that mistake created $1 million miracle. They examined the weight. It was heavier than a normal 1979 penny. They tested the metal. It was nearly pure copper, and the strike, it was perfectly centered, sharp, bold, flawless. It was the unicorn every collector dreams of, and when it finally went to auction, the room held its breath. Bids came in $200,000, then $450,000, $500,000. The final hammer came down at $1.3 million. Some were furious. They had tossed away 1979 D pennies for years, never imagining one might be the key to a fortune. And suddenly, a quiet revolution began. People started digging through drawers, tearing open old coin jars, unwrapping rolls from banks, because this coin changed everything. It's the combination of factors: the rare copper planchet, the pristine mint state, the double die reverse, and the off-register mint mark that suggests a damaged minting collar. This is a once-in-a-century error. It shouldn't exist. But it does. There could be others out there, hiding in plain sight. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Take a look at the mint mark. On the rarest 1979 D errors, it may appear slightly tilted, or closer to the date than normal. Flip the coin under strong light. Look closely at the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. If you see doubling on the columns or the words United States of America, you could be holding a double die, another value booster. And here's a detail even seasoned collectors miss. A few of these coins were struck using worn-out dies that left ghost-like impressions in the fields, giving the penny a dreamy, almost fogged-over look. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Some experts believe there are less than 15 known examples of the high-grade, copper planchet 1979 D penny with visible double dies, meaning if you find one, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a national numismatic treasure. A normal 1979 penny made from copper-plated zinc should weigh 2.5 grams. But the rare copper ones weigh around 3.1 grams. That tiny 0.6 gram difference, it could mean the difference between a penny and a $1,000,000. Next, examine the coin under magnification. They're doubling on the letters in Liberty or In God We Trust. Are the Lincoln Memorial columns clearly doubled? Does the D mint mark look punched in twice? If you answered yes to any of these, you need to get that coin graded immediately, because just one verified error could change your life. But most people never check, they assume pennies are worthless. They spend them, drop them, some even throw them in the trash. But these small coins carry big secrets, and the rarest ones, like the 1979 D with these hidden errors, can become your $1,000,000 miracle. So go grab that jar, tear through that drawer, because this exact penny could be sitting in your house right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000.